I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hung to this grave. My people don't want no trouble. We got enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. God protect me. I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hung to this grave. My people don't want no trouble. We've got enough struggle. I just want wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. God protect me. I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around, it's a shame that I see what's being done. Our fathers and mothers are killed, and we can't receive every day.
11 times he repeated, "I can't breathe." But the disconcerted officers, they paid no attention to his cries. The man was trying to only breathe.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Tuesday night Bible study, normally for Great New Macedonia. But today, as you all can see, we're starting off a little differently than we usually do. And that's because tonight is going to be a little different than what it's usually been, because the country is facing an issue that is not unusual to our history, but yet the tension is really great, and it's something that we cannot ignore. And so tonight, I want to make sure that I add you into the conversation, and that you all can be a part of the dialogue that we're about to have tonight. Before we begin, if you'll do me a favor, and if you will just like and make sure that you share this video on Facebook and YouTube. Those that are on, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're only a couple of subscribers away to where we're trying to get to, and we need your help to do that. So if you have not yet subscribed to Great New Macedonia's website or Great New Macedonia's YouTube page, we want to make sure you do that. And then as well, in the comments, let me know if you can hear me. Make sure that everybody is good. Those that are watching through Facebook or YouTube, and then even those that are on our prayer call as well, on our power call as well, I like to call it, our love line. We thank God for you all that are on as well. We want to make sure that you all are involved into the conversation. So with that in mind, let's pray, and then we'll begin tonight. I'm excited about what we're about to experience in Great New Macedonia, and this is absolutely going to be a unique night. It's going to be a powerful night, and I'm looking forward to see and hear what God is going to do. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you, Lord, for your grace, and God, we thank you, Lord, for all that you have done, everything that you've been for us. God, how you've blessed us, how you've allowed us, God, to come to this place. Lord, it's my prayer, God, Lord, that as we've taken this time to not just read scripture, but God, we've taken this time, Lord, to find out the best way for us to live out the scriptures in which we've read. I pray, God, you guide our conversations now. I ask, Lord, that you will help us, Lord, to be edified so that your name will be glorified, and so that the devil and hell can be horrified. Bless us, Lord, today, God, and guide us in our dialogue with one another. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. 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 Listen, I'm excited again. It's because the millennials are taking over. The young adults are leading the conversation tonight. And with everything that's happened since last Monday, when Black brother George Floyd was wrongfully killed and murdered at the hands of just trying to be nice, a police officer that had no regard for his life, no regard for his family, no regard for his future. He took his life, and it sparked an outrage all across the country, and not just him alone, but so many countless other men and women whose names we know and names we don't know have been affected by this. And it's time for us as a church to have a conversation about it. We've had press conferences, we've had Zoom calls, and we've had a whole lot of other stuff. But yet it was time for Macedonia, Great New Macedonia, to come to this place and have a conversation as a church family about what's going on and what should we do about it. And God laid upon my heart to call a lot of the millennials from our church and the young adults that are connected to our church to come together and to talk about this, because our grandmothers have fought the fight and grandfathers have fought the fight for us in the civil rights era. Our fathers and mothers have fought the fight before us. Now it's time for this generation to stand up, and we are going to have to determine how we're going to address and how we're going to respond to many of the evils in which we see still going on in our country and in our world. And so I want to introduce my panel of experts, these young men and women that are coming on, and they're going to be speaking to us today. So I want to add in Tiffany Jackson. Hey, Miss Tiffany. Tiffany Jackson is on, and then we have Minister Reggie Woods.
Hello, everybody.
All right. Then we also have Sister Yolanda Young.
Hello, everyone.
Great. And also have my brother, Ellis Keeter.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Happy to be here.
Great. And then we also have Brittany Phillips on the line as well. And we've had some connection issues. And so, but we're going to hopefully she'll be able to get on and to add on to the conversation as well. But listen, I've introduced them by name, but I want them to introduce themselves, just talking about just a brief description of their life, what do they do, where they are, and how you going through this Corona season. Let's deal with, as a pastor told me today, Auntie Rona, how you been dealing with all that today. Let's start with you, Yolanda. Talk to me.
Okay.
First of all, what do you do? What do you do? How you been, and then how you been doing?
Okay. As far as my career, I am a literacy coach. Okay. I'm a literacy coach. And as we know, schools have been closed. So I have been working virtually from home. I just entered our building back yesterday. It feels good to be out of the house, but it's also scary as well. As we have some people that are not following the rules with wearing masks, but the job has to be done.
Right.
So I'm doing okay at the moment.
Okay, great. Well, we want you definitely to be safe while you're back. Great. Reg, talk to me, man.
I'm Reggie. A lot of people know me already. I'm Reggie, center director, working the center business. So I've seen a whole lot of COVID situation stuff going on. It's been a challenging time. Just trying to keep my distance from everybody.
He's talking, but we can't hear him.
No, you can't hear me. I try to keep my distance from everybody and just trying to make the best of the situation right now. That's all I'm doing.
Okay, got it. Ellis, what about you, man?
Hey. So, hey, how's everybody doing? My name is Ellis Keeter. I am, as the Reverend mentioned a few minutes ago, I am his brother-in-law, but that's not my only claim to fame.
It may be the best one, though.
It probably is the best one and the most important one. But currently, so as a profession, I am an attorney by trade. Currently, in my career, I work at Miami-Dade College. I'm the chairperson of the Law Center at Miami-Dade. at the Wolfson campus, and I oversee the paralegal studies program. I also oversee criminal justice on my campus. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm an educator. As far as how I'm handling COVID, well, I mean, the teeny weeny afro will tell you that I have not had a haircut in several. And look at this too. Don't judge me on this. But I haven't had a haircut, and I haven't been shaving because I've been working from home, and I'll be working from home until August. But it's been rough, man. I'll be honest with you. It's really been rough because I mean, normally I'm a homebody, so I'm home anyway, and I don't really go anywhere. But just being cooped up is bad, and it's bad for my psyche. It's bad for my general mood. It's definitely taking a toll. And then the events of the past, say, week or so have put me in a big funk. So I mean, the virus, the goings on in the country, all this stuff it was already bad enough, and this just made it worse. And I'll be honest, man, I've been struggling for the past few days. I even had a conversation with the dean at Miami-Dade today, and I was just telling her, like, she called to check on me, and I said I'm not doing well. I'm just not, and the country is not doing well. So
right. Yeah. Well, we
sorry
we
to leave it on a sad note like that.
No. That was very depressing. But we're gonna talk about that we're gonna talk about that in just a second. So we about to get into that. Tiffany, talk to me, Tiff.
Hey everybody, I'm Tiffany. I don't live in Miami anymore. I moved to Atlanta, so I'm here in
Terrible.
Atlanta.
That's terrible. Come back, Tiffany. Come back.
I am a former police dispatcher, so I'm taking a break from police dispatching right now. So I'm working at Amazon, just doing random work. But with Corona, I think Corona I was okay because staying inside was fine. It was going out that was giving me anxiety. I didn't realize that it was giving me anxiety until I I realized that I had like a small semi anxiety attack once I got home and away from people. But the last couple of the last few days with everything that's going on with the police and the culture emotionally, like Ellis was saying, I'm not okay. I talking to my mom and talking to my dad and my sister about just things that are going on is helping me a little bit. Not watching the news is also helping. I just watch the news just to stay aware of what's going on in my area, so I don't go into the wrong area. But I'm not near any of the protesting or any of the marches. It's not in my neighborhood. But yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's real good. Okay. So let's jump right into it. And again, Tiffany, Brittany Phillips is supposed to be on with us, and I know she's trying to get in, and has had some internet issues, and that happens. Trust me, I know that very well. The internet is not saved. I think AT&T does this on purpose, and so if things go out, y'all just act like everything is fine, and this is what's supposed to happen. All right. So let's jump into this. Let's jump into it. So we are this country. I think it was Don Lemon that I heard say it, and I was actually thinking it before he said it. I think he actually got it from me. But Don Lemon on CNN said that that the country is facing two pandemics. One is coronavirus, and the other is racism. And the truth is that neither one of them seemingly has a cure. Neither one of them seemingly has a vaccine, and we'll probably get rid of corona much faster than we will racism. With the things in which we've seen going on now, inside of our communities, inside of in Minnesota. Um, George Floyd killed with a knee in his neck. Breonna Taylor, police bust inside of um, the house, the wrong house at that, shoots young lady and kills her innocently. Um, and and then there's just like so many others, right? So a black man running through the neighborhood and is chased down by white residents and shot. Another young man is walking in Central Park, and young white woman weaponizes uh, her privilege and calls the police and acts as if she's being attacked. These things that have always been there, they're now being televised, and now the nation is seeing it. So for me, here's the first stab at the question. Um, when you saw the video of the George Floyd video, and the police officer, what thoughts and emotions went through your head and went through your mind, went through your heart as you began to see that? What sparked in you when he saw? And remember what I told y'all earlier. Now I got mothers and deacons that are listening, and so I want to make sure that we good with our responses. but seriously, what thoughts came to your head? What was it?
The first thing,
Anybody can jump at it.
the first thing I thought was, not again, not again.
I'll go first. Um, I'm honestly gonna say I didn't watch the whole video because I, for one, can't watch another video like
Same
that.
here.
It's like watching snuff tapes. I can't do it. I probably watched up until he said I can't breathe, maybe the 8 or 9 time. When he started calling his mom, I ended the tape. I couldn't watch it. Um Emotionally, it that those I can't watch. Emotionally, I can't watch them because it does something to me. Um and just listening to the people in the background, just trying to assist as much without getting involved, without becoming a victim also. That also, it also emotionally messed with me. And there's a video, I think like there was a couple of days later, the girl that actually taped it, she went back to the scene and she was just so emotional. Like people were not trying to comfort her, and I was like, I can't do it. I don't understand. I think that's one of the reasons why I also don't watch the news. It does something to you emotionally. And I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago, though, that a video, I think it was um the I can't remember his name. It was Fred Alton, I think, the guy that was selling CDs and he got killed in front of the store. That
In New
video was
York.
the hmm,
In New
yeah,
York.
that video was the video that made me decide that I couldn't do the job that I was doing anymore. I I think I called my mom. I was in tears and I told her this is not for me anymore because I I don't think I could be objective to the situation anymore. Like sometimes you have working for law enforcement, you have to see both sides or you can't see a side at all. And I
Mm,
knew then that I could not no longer be on the law enforcement side or be objective because I have a black father, I have black brothers, I have black cousins, I have black nephews. I knew I couldn't be objective to the situation anymore because at some point you have to be like, is this real? Because at one point I like, this real, but
mm,
I emotionally I can't anymore. It's too. I always say race, politics, and religion are three conversations I can't have because it's too emotional for me because I don't know if I'm projecting my points as well so other people can understand what I'm saying, or I don't
Mhm.
know if I'll be open to anyone that's neutral or universal to both sides.
Yeah. So that's actually one of the things that I wanted to kind of ask you, Tiffany, specifically because you are or were a emergency, dispatcher,
Mm-hmm.
and so you would get these cases and calls going in. So especially when it comes down to the Central Park incident where a white woman calls and says, there's, a black man who is threatening my life and all that kind of stuff. Um, as a dispatcher, how often, would you get a call like that? And then, is there any time in which you're like, like where this sounds, kind of race infused?
Um, the thing when you get a call and if someone is like I did watch her video. And when you listen to how emotional and ramped up she is, there's a protocol that there we have to follow. We have to ask certain questions, so we know when the officers arrive that they're prepared for whatever is going on. Because she sounded like they were in a complete violent environment. So
Right.
they, so the we as dispatchers, we have to get all the information, as much information as possible to give them so they know how to respond to the incident. If it's violent, they know that they need to go in as prepared as possible. If it's not violent, they know that okay, they know that it's not a violent situation. There's no need for any violence to be dispersed. But
Right.
like they would have asked her, what is he doing? How is he threatening? Did he threaten you physically? Did he threaten you verbally? Is he near you? Are you standing close to him? Can you get to a safe distance away from him? Like they ask all those questions, they give all those instructions, but um she used her privilege to make it sound like he was really violating her in a violent way. If I was on the other end of the line, I would have thought, he was, like about to attack her and her dog.
Hmm.
But um the we do use our common sense and listening. We also are trained to listen to the background to see that there's to see if there's any danger in the background, because you listen to see if you can hear the other person. And
Right.
you can clearly hear him saying, call the police. Please call the police. And if somebody sounds that calm on the other end and she sounds as hysterical as she sounds, then you have to let the officers know that the person is still on the scene, but it doesn't sound violent. She just sounds, really amped up. It sounds, like it's being blown out of proportion.
So let me ask you this, and then I want to hear from Reggie as well. So so with you hearing that call, if you were on that line, if you were the dispatcher that heard that,
Hmm.
um, would you know to give the benefit of the doubt because of your cultural experiences, or could,
Hmm.
let's say, a white dispatcher who's never had any experiences with black people, really, would they also have that same kind of mentality to say maybe it's not what she seems, what she's making it seem?
Um, well, as a dispatcher, we're not, um, um, by policy, we're not supposed to determine, what is there, because we're not there. We're just supposed to give them as much information as possible. If a description of, the person is calling, a description of the person that are calling on, and give as much information on the situation as th- we possibly can. If it's a verbal dispute, which it was. If it's a verbal dispute and we're just supposed to let them know it's a verbal dispute, no one, there was no physical, um there was no physical nothing physical happened.
Right.
And you know, and if she would have said she didn't give the reason why she called, which was because he asked her to put her dog on a leash. And by law, the dispatcher would have asked her, "Well, have you put your dog on a leash, or
Mm.
is your dog unleashed?" And then that would have started probably another whole conversation. But
Right.
we're not supposed to determine if if it's not a threatful situation because we're not there and we're not responding. If she says he's threatening her life, that's what we're supposed to we to let them know that.
Got it. That sounds good. I got it. Reg, man, what were your thoughts, man?
Naturally, the first thing when I seen it, the first thing came to my mind was not this again. Um, why we going through this again? Why is this a continuing thing? Why are we always in the same predicament? And I don't know about anybody else, but I, as a black man living in America, I'm always cautious. Maybe a month or so ago, the decal on my tag got stolen, and I got pulled over. I had no idea the decal on my tag was stolen. And at first off, I'm a big black man. Let's say that. So I already look aggressive, and then sometimes I have units on my face that can even trigger the thought of aggressive. And so the guy approached my car, and my first thought is reach over and call somebody so somebody can hear us. Because you kill me, I'm gonna give you a good fight in court. I'm gonna give y'all something to fight with in court. So that's my first thought. And I'm reaching over and I'm calling. And the guy's like, your tag is my, he's all aggressive with me at first. He's like, your tag is fight. I mean, he said your tag, why your tag say it's been fight for longer than 6 months. I was like, my tag is fight more than 6 months.
That's on you.
Yeah, that's something going on here. Hold on 1 minute.
They calling back. They're trying to get you. Well, they listening. They listening, Red. You better be careful.
My first thought is, they trying to. My first thought is, this man is gonna be. Even so, I asked the guy, I said, "Can I get out and see?" And he says, "Yeah." He said, "No problem." So he gets out. He naturally pats me down, and I pulled over into a public parking spot. I pulled over in Family Dollar because again, I need some witnesses to this. So he pats me down. I'm nervous, and I'm just like, so I'm like, "Sir, did you run my tag? Because if you ran my tag, you would have naturally known that my tag is not expired." He was like, "No." So he goes. So now I come off his eye. He said, "Well, you don't have to talk to me like that." I said, "So I'm just asking a question." So he runs my tag. He said, "Oh, you're free to go." He said, "But I'm giving you a warning this time." But at that thought, it's so many thoughts running through my head. How this can end? This may not end as good as it did end for me. And that's just our natural thought when we see things like this keep happening. When is it going to be my turn? And you just naturally pray, and you think that this will never happen to me, but we never know we never know if it can happen to us. So when I seen it, I'm just like, yo, this can't be happening again. This can't be the new normal. And it is. And Will Smith said, this is nothing new. It's now just being filmed, however he said it. And it's very true. Now we're seeing it so much because everybody's filming it now. No one's scared to film it and put it on TV or to put it on Facebook and share it. But it's every time you see it, it's just again, nah, man, not this again. Not this again. And it hurts. It really does hurt.
Yeah. So Ellis, so thankfully we, the 4 officers who were, who were at the scene of the crime, who were involved, the 4 officers have all been arrested. And so now a lot of people are saying, okay, so this is done now. They got arrested. Now y'all go and live your life, right? And so, but as a lawyer yourself, you know that a charge is not the same as a conviction.
Right.
And matter of fact, we've had other cases in which officers have been charged with something, and then everybody goes on to their, the rest of their lives. And then before we know it, we hear lines and we find out they were acquitted,
Mm-hmm.
and it was thrown out and nobody said anything. So on the legal side, can you kind of tell me, man, what were your thoughts, man, and how you feeling with all this?
So yeah, I mean, well, I'll just say this: just like Tiffany, I didn't watch the whole video. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I've seen enough people be killed on film that I didn't feel the need to watch the video. My wife watched it a few times. She saw all the different angles. In fact, the most disturbing thing to me about the video was not even necessarily the video, although that was very jarring. It was the audio that got me. Him screaming and pleading for his life. That was almost too much. And so, like, the times when my wife would watch it over and over, I was asking her, at least, if you're going to watch it, can you please just turn the volume down so I don't have to hear this man pleading and begging for his life. But to the question, from a legal perspective, let me just put this out there first of all. I'm not a criminal attorney, so I've never worked for the prosecutor's office. I've never worked in criminal defense, so my knowledge on criminal law is limited. So I'll just put that out there. But just generally speaking, and I think everybody knows this, and if you don't, hopefully you'll learn a little bit. The arrest is nothing. The arrest is not even the charge. The arrest is literally just taking the person into custody. What follows that is the charge, and as we've heard, they've been charged. At least the main culprit has been charged, and I believe the other ones, if charges haven't been filed yet, they are forthcoming. But literally, that means almost nothing. It's just a charge. In the United States, there's a presumption of innocence if you're accused of a crime, and essentially, the arrest and the charge is just the accusation that they did something wrong. It starts a process. We've all heard due process. And so it starts these steps and these wheels in motion of due process. And I'll put a pin in that because I want to come back to due process. But yeah, we've seen in the other cases where something happens on tape. The community rises up. The community's angry. The community's hurt. And the community lets their voices be heard. And then we see, in hindsight, what I think to be, just a token charge, just charge them to shut the people up, and so, of course, we'll indict them. They know the charges won't stick, or they charge them with some flimsy charges that the prosecutor knows won't stick. And so that's another thing. The DA, the state attorney, the district attorney, the state attorney, the prosecutor, whatever you want to call these people, they have great power, and they have a lot of power in determining whether or not they even want to pursue charges. And I think what got the country up in arms was the fact that these folks in Minnesota seem to be taking their time in deciding whether or not they even wanted to charge this guy, when we're looking at literally watching a 10-minute video of them snuffing out a man's life, with him begging and pleading for his life, with bystanders begging and pleading for his life. So that's what what sparked the unrest in this case, was the fact that we thought they were dragging their feet in coming and even bringing up charges, which we all could see with our untrained legal eyes, that there's something wrong here, And if we as a populace can watch this video and know, with no knowledge of the law, that something is amiss and something is not right, just by watching this video, it's hard for us to understand when trained legal professionals can watch something like that and not see anything. Now, I get it from the prosecutor's side. They don't want to bring empty charges, and so they wanted to take their time. But then you get into a situation, which is what actually happened in this case, where the coroner or whoever the person that does the autopsy on the body is, initially came back with a report saying, despite what we all saw for 10 minutes, that the guy's knee on his neck is not what caused his death. That there were some other underlying health issues, and then what got me was the little throw-in line at the end. It was a throw-in, but it was very poignant, and it jumped out at me. It said possible intoxication, And I'm thinking, like, aren't you the dude doing the test to see if he's intoxicated? So why would you even put that out there to throw that doubt and to besmirch his character? Because it's like being accused of rape or being accused of child molestation. Just the accusation is enough. Just me saying it makes you guilty in the eyes of the people who hear it. Even if you're later proven to be innocent, the fact that you were accused of rape or child molestation, just the simple charge is enough. And so in this case, what jumped out at me was the fact that this coroner's report said possible intoxication was a cause of his death. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like, you're supposed to be the person ruling this in or out. Don't say possible intoxication so that now we're wondering, oh, well, maybe he had drugs in his system, or maybe he, something else. So I don't know if I answered your question. As you can see, I'm very animated. I'm still worked up about this situation. It affects me very much.
Could be.
But from the legal standpoint, I can see where the prosecutors have to take their time in certain instances. But what I hope is not the case, as has been proven the case in many instances before, is that they'll just come up with bogus charges just to shut the crowd up. Not even bogus, just something that they know won't stick. A lot of people are saying it's not first-degree murder, or people were upset that he was charged with third-degree murder, not first-degree murder. But to prove first-degree murder, they have to essentially prove that this guy woke up in the morning, decided that he was going to go find this person, set these things in motion, set this scheme and this plan into motion, and then carried it out later. That's first-degree murder. It's with what is called malice aforethought, meaning like he was thinking in his brain, he woke up with evil thoughts in his head that he was going to go kill George Floyd, and he carried it out. They could charge him with that. You can make the argument that at some point in the process, he decided that he was going to kill George, which would then, I guess you could make the argument that it's premeditated, but that would be a very, very, very difficult standard to meet.
I mean, he would have to know him before he met him.
Right. Well, and I think there's speculation or something that they knew each other from something beforehand, that they had worked in security or something together. But that's beside the point. My point was that for the first degree murder charge to stick, they would really, really have to have lots and lots of evidence that this guy really decided early on that he was going to kill the guy, not necessarily in the heat of the moment. And then people wonder why it skipped from first to second degree murder. And I think, don't get me wrong, like I told you, I'm not a criminal defense attorney, and I've been out of law school for like 11 years now, so I don't remember all the stuff I learned in criminal law. But I believe second degree murder is for situations where, like, picture a man walking in on his wife in bed with another person. The rage that fills you in that moment, you can't control your emotions, and you kill someone. That, I believe, is second degree murder. Then the third degree murder / manslaughter is when you decide and you intentionally do something. And I read the Minnesota statute. Someone tweeted it out. And the Minnesota statute basically says that you do an intentional act with the intent to cause bodily harm, injury or bodily harm that results in death. And I think that's what probably is the closest thing to what happened. That the cop set out to do something to harm him, and his death was a result.
And that'll probably get the closest conviction.
That will be the easiest to get a conviction. The thing that a lot of people also don't really consider is that, and I don't know how it would have played out in this case, but generally, if they had charged him with first degree murder, all of the lesser included offenses are also included. So that means if I'm charging you with third degree murder, if I don't meet the standard if I charge you with first degree murder, if I don't meet the standard for proving first degree murder, the jury can still find you guilty of second degree murder or third degree murder. It includes everything that's up under it. So in that case, you could make the argument that maybe the state attorney or the DA should have charged with first degree murder, like, the saying, shoot for the stars, land on the moon. It could have been that kind of situation, but you also kind of delegitimize your charges if you overcharge, knowing that you're aiming for something lesser. And so
Right.
I think they're trying their best to charge appropriately. And I think, you know, at least key to their opinion, I think third-degree murder was probably the best chance they had to get a conviction.
Okay, so I want to get Yolanda in this because Ellis, I want to come back to you because I believe that there's more. There's another side to this that we don't usually talk about as well, and that I want to be able to bring up. But Yolanda, you are a teacher, a literacy coach, and by profession, you mentor, you shape, you educate countless boys and girls of various colors. And so, as a teacher, as an educator, how do these events shape the way that you think about education, as far as, you know, how you educate, you know, your kids, you know, because now it seems like we have to teach them not just literacy skills, but also life survival skills as well. Or else, you know, we may end up, you know, losing the child. So what are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely, Pastor. As an educator, you know, we wear many hats. We are not just the teacher, we are mom, we are dad, we're grandma, we're social workers, we are the counselor. We're everything that child needs within the 8-hour day that they are with us for 5 days a week. So we play a big part in molding and building character and providing successful education for them. In my years, I've been an educator for now almost 14 years. I've been out of the classroom now for 4 of those years. But I've always worked in our, what we call transformation schools in our lower economic areas. I started out in brown subs. I moved my way up to we'll call Opalaka, Miami Gardens area. So I've always worked in our there. So as an African American teacher and as an African American woman, I felt it was my duty to have our young men, African American men, boys in the classroom, to learn just how precious they are. If nobody else is telling them that they're precious, in my classroom, you mean a lot. And it's a tough job. It's a tough thing to teach to African American young men where they don't get to see it on a daily basis. Our Black kings are being killed, and that's what they see. I've had students that have fallen victim to being killed. I've had students to already be incarcerated.
Wow.
And I'm a veteran teacher, but I don't have 20 and 30 years. This is a 14-year educator, and I have students that are incarcerated.
Wow.
So we have to change something. We have to show our Black boys that they are kings, and our society is failing us. So in the classroom, I urge all teachers, whatever color you are, to just show these Black boys and African American women as well, young little girls, that they are precious in our sight.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Listen, I have on the line, I have Brittany Phillips on the line. Brittany, are you there? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Brittany, are you there?
I can hear you.
Hey, Brittany, how are you?
Okay.
I am good.
Good. Listen, Brittany, we just kind of share with us your thoughts and about the recent events with George Floyd and so many others, and just our history of being victims to racist actions and intentions and circumstances. What are your thoughts? Especially you're an attorney as well, and so what are your thoughts on everything?
Honestly, so yesterday my day started off. I had somebody call me, one of my opposing counsels, and before I got off the phone, the woman was like, I just need to tell you, I really do admire how you wake up and go out into the world every day. And I'm like, okay. I was taken aback because I think, and I know that we know this, but many people think that we have made this all up in our heads, that the issues that we as Black people talk about all the time and that we try to bring to the forefront, they think that they don't exist. So I think that right now what's going on is that they're seeing, oh, they're not making this up. Oh, this is their reality. And my response was, unfortunately, this is our norm. This is the world that we live in. You can't take your skin on and off, put it on and off every day like it's a piece of clothing. This is what we know, unfortunately, but it's a real and sad reality where the world judges us not based on the content of our character, but, there are so many preconceived notions and stereotypes that we face. I think that right now is just the time where other people are starting to see, oh, wow, this is reality for them every day. I spoke to one of my friends from college earlier today. He lives in Ohio, and he was out protesting on Friday, and he says that the firm that he works in, he's the only Black lawyer in his firm. They sent out an email basically equating what is going on to coronavirus and telling everyone to be safe and that this would pass. I think that the problem is that you have so many people that live in a bubble. I had somebody tell me yesterday, but I have like a few Black friends. If you have to say you have a few Black friends, you don't understand the plight of Black people in the country.
Right.
Exactly.
I have a Black friend. So if you can name the number of Black friends you have, you can't relate to us. So I've been honestly every day I've been talking to when it was so just crazy. I called somebody into my office because I was like, you need to help me get this lady off, this person off the phone. This is another person. You help me get them off the phone because I do not have my tolerance level. Sorry, Pastor. Sorry, Jesus. My tolerance level is not high right now. And it's just seeing these same people that, a lot of them, for me, I went to a Catholic high school and a Christian high school. And the issue that I've had with a lot of the people that I went to high school with was, how can you say you love Jesus when you don't love your brother or your sister because they're Black? How can you be inherently racist when you claim to love God? And that is the issue that I think a lot of people are having to face right now when looking at themselves. So this is just, honestly, 2 months ago, who would have thought we would be here?
Right.
Who would have thought all of this would have taken place? But I mean, yesterday the police in Louisville murdered another Black man. This is the craziest time. But there are just so many hashtags, unfortunately. But I think now the rest of the people in the world that don't look like us are starting to see, wow, they're not making it up. This is reality, and this has been reality for forever at this point,
Right. That's great. I want to shift this and go a little deeper into from the emotional effects that we have felt, because this is nothing new for us and our people. We've gone through the emotional effects of all of this since the slave ships. since 1600s, and so we've been going through this. But now the question becomes, for our generation especially, is what are we going to do about it? And so, in my mind, there are at least, of course, there are much more that we can do, but at least two major movements that I believe that we can take as well, for not just for George Floyd, but for everybody, and for all of our communities, all the Black, Latino, every minority that we can help. Number one is collective protests, in which we've done. And when I say collective protests, I'm not just talking about just marching down the street. That can be a part of it, but there are other ways to protest as well. That we have to make sure that we do. Matter of fact, my professor told me at Bethune-Cookman University, Yolanda, he told me that that green is the color of compromise. He said green is the color of compromise. So he said that if you ever want somebody to start compromising and coming to your side, then use the color green and not the color black or white. And so, we can protest, monetarily, economically, all that stuff. That's fine. But also another piece that we don't talk about much, and then that kind of gets me to a question that that my other brother James Polk just asked as well, and that is civil participation. Civil participation. So we have collective protests, yes, but also civil participation, because when looking at the charge, whatever charge they give him, whether it's the third degree, whether it's second degree, whether it's first degree, whether it's jaywalking, whatever they give him, it ultimately, and Brittany and Ellis, you two are the experts at this, to some degree, so you all know better than I do, that ultimately is going to come to a jury decision for conviction. And if there are not enough people who look like us, who have experienced our narrative, who connects with the Black community, and not just because you got one or two Black friends, but people that are actually connected to it, then we may see something that happened with George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin, in which everybody knew he was guilty. George Zimmerman knew he was guilty, and that's why he's going around the country signing Skittles as a claim to fame. But if we ourselves are not participating civilly, even when it comes down to jury duty, then how can we say we won't change? Because it doesn't just stop at police. It continues, and it goes to judges, it goes to lawyers, it goes to the jurors bench. So I know, for me, I want to be honest, I know there's reputation, the confession is good for the soul but terrible for the reputation. So for me, there have been several times where I've prayed and asked God, please don't let me have to serve jury duty. I don't want to go into that room. I don't want to wait all day just to do nothing. And not just me, since I'm throwing myself out there, I'm going to throw my parents out there too. They didn't want to go jury duty either, and they talked about how bad it was. And so, and to be honest, there's a whole lot of people that's listening to me right now that you've done the same thing, and y'all being real quiet as if y'all never had that thought before, but it's okay. So I'll take that. But now I'm at the point now where I'm hoping that they give me jury duty, because I want to be on the jury when I see a young Black brother that has to stand in front of me, and I'm hearing the story, and I know this probably ain't right. and I'm able to detect it. I'm able to see it. And so now I want to do it. So now there's a civil responsibility to participate ourselves inside of the process as well. So can anybody wants to speak to that part? Because then I'm gonna shift it, to something really explosive in a second. But I want to just kind of touch on that because we have a responsibility as well to make sure this doesn't happen again, as well as voting. As one of our commenters said that they said talk about voting, and then the question, Ellis, is that James Polk asks. He said that sentencing someone, and we argue for a third degree murder might have been charged not only to be the easiest conviction, but to also get the least amount of time. And so, are they charging third degree to get the officer less time in the long run? That's his question.
Well, so I would answer it like this. I mean, I don't know what's in the heart of that district attorney, or I don't know if it's, some states call it a district attorney, some states call it a state attorney, the prosecutor. I don't know what's in that person's heart, and I don't know if his motives were to give the person the least, the smallest, smallest possible time. I believe, again, I'll take them at their professional judgment and say that they did that not for a nefarious reason, but because that was the charge that they could convict on. It would be, like I said, they would be very hard pressed to prove first degree murder. I don't think, if I was correct in my definition of second degree murder, I don't think that fits here. And so that really only leaves you with third degree murder, unless you're going to do some other kind of negligent homicide, which probably would have an even smaller sentence. From what I understand, I think he can get up to 25 years in prison, and hopefully this judge will throw, or the jury or whoever will throw the book at this guy based on the aggravating circumstances in this case. The fact that the man was completely subdued, the fact that they kept his knee on his neck for several minutes after he was unconscious and unresponsive. I think that those factors hopefully will weigh into the sentencing, and that he'll get the stiffest possible sentence. But to answer the question, I don't think necessarily that there's some concerted conspiracy or anything to get the guy the smallest possible jail sentence with the charging. I think that the charging it was kind of like you're playing a game of spades. If you got 6 books in your hand, bid 6 books. And I think that's what this DA tried to do, was try to, pardon my bad analogy, bid correctly in this game of spades.
Right. I got you. Britt, you got any thoughts on that, Brittany?
Honestly, I think since they're just at the beginning of their investigation, I think that everybody's forgetting that there's a possibility that they may end up upgrading the charges just based on what they find out. So,
okay,
this literally happened. So I think once they do some more investigation regarding the background, the allegation that they possibly knew each other, things may change. But you have to remember, they have to charge based on the facts, the evidence, and what they think they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you overcharge and you take the case in front of a jury, you could end up with him being found not guilty. So I think that everybody needs to keep that in mind.
Right.
Rather than thinking, we need to go for the most serious charge out of the gate. Like, they have to do an investigation while everybody's protesting, watching this on TV. There should be an investigation going on in the background, trying to see everything that led up to this, actions of the other officers in relation to the man that actually committed the act. So I think that's what everyone needs to be cognizant of.
Yeah, that's absolutely key. And I do want to say that when it comes down to civil participation, that there are just so many levels to this, right? So it's being able to vote for legislation and legislators, the actual bills and laws that are on the ballot, and we need to be educated on what those are. So because I know for especially for our community, oftentimes we'll look and we'll see a whole paragraph of a bill or a law or whatnot, or just see something unfamiliar, and we just vote based upon what we think, or just a guess, and not really understanding exactly what it means, as well as the legislators, and know who's in your district, know who who's running for what, and what their platforms are, what they believing, what are we going to hold them accountable to, as well as judges, as well. So after the jury, let's say the jury convicts the officer and officers, for the highest crime, that the highest degree that they can charge them. Okay, but ultimately, if I'm not mistaken, it's the judge that's going to determine the sentencing, right? And so if you got a judge that the maximum, let's say the third degree, say the maximum is 20 or 25 years or whatever, um, and the judge says, well, I don't want to give him that much, I don't think it's worth that much, I'll give him the minimum, however much that is, then now you still are, you still losing. So that's why it's important that we vote for judges as well, and we get that, we make sure that we have judges that are connected with our community. And not everybody, and I said this in another Zoom, not everybody that is our color does not necessarily mean that they're connected. So just because you're black doesn't mean that you are connected to what I'm going through and what the black community faces. Unfortunately, we have people that kind of disconnect themselves when they reach a certain status. So that leads me to talking about voting. That leads me to the powder keg in the room. Our governmental response, our official governmental response. President Donald Trump, Donald J. Trump, 45, and along with other adjectives that I'd rather not mention on live. He gets on national news press conference, and states he is the president of law and order, and essentially calling protesting an act of domestic terrorism, and kind of going after the movement, throwing out dog whistles, telling people that, hey, I'm fighting for your Second Amendment rights, which I'm trying to figure out what exactly does this situation have to do with Second Amendment rights. And so clearly this is a dog whistle to tell his base, get your guns out. And yet he goes vigorously on this, but yet sends a measly tweet about the actual injustice. And matter of fact, the only thing he does during this time span executively is sign an executive order to restrict Twitter and Facebook and social media platforms from fact checking his statuses and tweets. And so with the government response like this, what is it that goes through your mind when you hear the response from the government, response from our president and others who are in his group, I'll say, in his clan? What thoughts come to your head when you hear this? And then I didn't even want to go into the fact that he made, sign an order for, the protesters to be moved, just so that he can walk over to a church whose room caught on fire, and then holding up a Bible awkwardly, for whatever reason, I don't know. He didn't pray, didn't read the scripture, didn't say nothing about God at all. And so, it just using that as a prop. What are your thoughts? Let me stop. What are your thoughts? Nobody? Because I'm trying to stop talking because Apostle Malone, my uncle, he just told me don't cuss, nephew. So I'm trying not to. So I need one of y'all to please talk, please. I need one of y'all to please say something, so I can hush and drink this tea on the side of my table.
You said be nice, so I think that's the hardest part of this is to be nice and to maintain some clarity on it. 45 is amazing. He's an amazing person. I think Tiffany tried to talk too. 45 is an amazing person. He is somebody that he doesn't know what to say out of his mouth, honestly, and he does a lot of things for photo ops and props, and he seems to amaze me. And the interesting part is working with people who I work a lot around people who supports 45, and that is the hardest part about the situation. Going into workplaces and you're trying to be numb to the situation to an extent because you don't want to say the wrong things. And I try not to be political in work, but this guy never seems to amaze me to an extent because. And the worst part about yesterday is that he did use Christianity. He tried to use Christianity for his political gain and his props. And the thing that really killed me was he said nothing. He said a whole bunch of stuff that took nothing. And everything the guy does, and our government locally and both nationally is insane because no one has actually stood up really and said we're against. We don't. We don't want political. What are we going to do? Why are we not at the lawmaker's office? Trying to get some things changed. Nobody's really taking a political stance on. I'm not taking a stance on saying this is wrong. Everybody is just quiet at this point, and you have to watch these things because just like Pastor Malone said, you have to vote. You have to vote. You have to watch these things. You have to know who to vote for because these same people are going to be up for re-election soon, and you got to get them. And you got to be able to stand on something and say, no, I remember when this happened, you did nothing. You were just, you was quiet. So why would I vote for you? I'm going to be quiet during this time, just like you were quiet during our time of need. So that's just, but yeah. 45 amazes me, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to add, and Apostle Malone mentioned as well, also to add that the bishop in which that church, which is called the Church of the Presidents, the bishop who is over that district that church is a part of, openly rebuked and denounced what Trump did twice, actually. And she was very blatant about her disapproval and using the church for that sense. And this is it. And honestly, it's kind of it categorizes what he's been doing this entire candidacy and presidency is using the church for political gain, using the church as a base, instead of yielding to the principles of the church to become a better president and leader. I'm supposed to be hushing. I'm sorry. All right, I'm done. All right.
You make a great point. I'll just jump in there, and it's amazing to me how, and I don't even, it seems in our society we've started calling Christians evangelicals. I don't even know what that means, but I guess that's what Christians are these days. They're evangelicals. But it's amazing to me that the number of folks who call themselves Christians have thrown their support behind this guy who is so obviously not a Christian, and then that dude, as the pastor held, he mentioned how Donald Trump held up the Bible very awkwardly, and that's just because he didn't even know how to hold the Bible. Somebody put on Twitter that he was holding it like it was burning his hand, like he's maybe like the son of Satan or something like that. And that's kind of what it looked like. And I just don't know how so many people can get behind this guy in the name of Christianity and supporting Christianity when he very obviously is not a Christian. I think one of the things that the archdiocese said was, or no, it was a reporter that said, you know, they thought it was amazing all the stuff that went into him going into that church that he's only been to once before, which was probably for a ceremony early on in his presidency. He doesn't attend services there. He only, and it's so transparent that he only does it to pander to his base of folks who call themselves Christians, but then overlook all the unchristian things that he does and says. I don't know. I'm baffled by it. It just, I don't know. I think it's a perversion. I don't like the fact that he does it. But I mean, if people are going to keep falling for it, I guess it's a smart play.
I think he that's on to touch on to piggyback off of you, Ellis. I think they use the church to I don't want to say pander or pacify, but to get to the black people, because they know, you know, we use God as a strength to us, and it's something that even the slaves use. They always sung, you know, hymns to strengthen them, and we use prayer and faith. And I think they, like, when someone falls, not just him, but when anyone falls on their sword or falls on their words, they use the church, or they use the Christian faith to get us to be okay with them. But it doesn't work for me.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yolanda, what do you think?
Well, for 45, I cannot take him serious at all. It's hard for me to listen to him. There's rage, there's anger to him, but I have to show up in numbers. Anybody at this point is better than 45. That's my feelings, Pastor.
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry, I cannot at all.
Yeah, I got you. Now, Cassandra Dye mentioned this, and she's absolutely right. There is somebody sent me a picture today of Donald Trump holding the Bible in his hand, and it was the exact same way that Hitler held the Bible in his hand as well. And so I'm not going to show it on here. So you just going to have to Google it and find it. But it is absolutely yeah, it's jarring. And yeah.
Sorry, Rev, could I make a point here? So I just wanted to clarify something on that too, and I don't know if you've if you had seen that before or had heard anything about it, but apparently that photo was a Photoshop, the one of Hitler. There's another photo with him with just his hand up, and then someone had put the Bible in there. So apparently that thing might have been something. But that was the point I was going to make, and I think that when you're talking about being involved civically and educating ourselves about issues, I think we all need to be very, very, very careful where we get our information. Only get your news information, please, people, from reputable news sources. And I know it's a scary time when you can't even trust the news, or you don't feel like you can, and you don't know what's true and what's not, and you're seeing the same thing happen on TV, and you can't even believe your own eyes because you don't know if what you're seeing on TV is real.
Exactly.
My point is, we have to be very, very vigilant with where we're getting our information. But at the same time, we do have to go seek out the information, and we do have to keep ourselves educated and informed. But it's dangerous, man. People are out there, and people have motives, and it's you can see it in the protests. You can see these folks that are joining in the protests that are there to throw rocks and bricks at the police and there to break windows. And they're only there to do that. They're not there to march and not there to support the movement. They're not there to make their voices be heard. They're not there to stand up for anybody's rights. They're literally just there to cause problems. And that in turn is what's making the media portray these protests as violent protests and as riots, which then gives the authorities the ammunition to say, we have to use force against you because y'all are out here breaking windows and throwing rocks. That's all my point was going to be, was just the fact that there's so much misinformation out there that we have to be very, very, very careful where we get our stuff from. And this is not to cast shade on that picture, because I saw the picture too with Hitler and all that, and I had the same, and I retweeted and liked and all of that. But then I saw later that the pictures had been photoshopped and manipulated. So I guess the bigger point is just we have to be very, very vigilant with our sources of information.
Right.
Because not everybody has the best things in mind.
And that's the exact reason why I said I wasn't going to show that, because we need to be careful about where we get information, especially things such as that. However, still the image is absolutely jarring, and it reminds us, because there are certain ideologies that are very similar and very much so disturbing when it comes down to this president, along with other tyrants and other dictators that we've seen in past history. And so with that in mind, also now we have this narrative that's being shaped when it comes down to protesters, that all of this is about looting. And so now the media, now the government are all focusing on people breaking in to stores and grabbing things and walking out, and the focus is on the looting and not on the majority of the actions going on, which is the protests and the civil and peaceful movements that are going on. And so how can we make sure that we're not lost in the sauce, just like as far as in making sure the pictures and videos that whatever we see is not we guard ourselves with that, but also how do we make sure that what's being shown on the media and what's being focused on does not distract us from the real issue at hand. Brittany, are you still?
What? Oh.
Okay.
I'm here.
You have any thoughts you want to weigh in? Because I want to make sure I don't lose you.
I'm here, Pastor. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Anybody wants to weigh in on that?
The only thing I can with the few videos that I've seen when it comes to the looting, most of the looting is not us.
Exactly, I agree, Tiffany.
and I think people are they're pointing the finger at the protesters and saying it's the protesters that are looting. The countless videos that I've seen where there's looters or breaking windows is not us. And of course that's not going to be told. Even on the news, I think it was there's this video they keep showing. They busted some windows at a cheesecake factory, and the lady walks out of the cheesecake factory with an entire cheesecake. She's not us. And what they say is that this lady, she walks out of the cheesecake factory with an entire cheesecake, unknown where she got it from. You just said she walked out of the Cheesecake Factory, so that's where she got it from. But I think, and then when to make a point when you said that they're saying that y'all president is saying that the protesting is domestic terrorism. He didn't say that when they were protesting about when those protesters marched down to City Hall with their shotguns and their AR-15s and stood in front of City Hall because they didn't want to stay home anymore. They wanted
Right.
the stay at home order to end. Like that wasn't called domestic terrorism. That was called he called that being an American.
Right.
Really? And that's why I chose not to watch when he speaks. But like these protesters, they're just walking. They have signs. They don't have guns. They don't have they don't have anything in their hands but their hands and their right, and they're domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think people are getting lost in his words and what he's using to um to define what's going on instead of just listening, because at some of the protests there are people speaking. um I think they're not even paying attention to the speeches that are giving at the protest, or I don't even think they're reading the signs that some of the protests are holding up. They're just
Hmm.
going off the words that he's tweeting, the press conferences that he's having, and they're just determining what it and the videos that are posted on social media, that the bad videos. There's a lot of videos that people are posting and showing the peaceful part of the protesting, and half the time when there's vandalism, there's no protest where there's vandalism. Those people are not even a part of the protest. They're not even walking. They're not even chanting. They just want to break things and bust things, because just to say they're out there doing it for that, but that's not what they just want to be a part of. And um I have some friends that are still police officers, and they 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 even tell the ones that I speak to, I check on them to make sure they're okay. They say that the people that are protesting, well, not protesting, the people that are looting and vandalizing, they're not even from the states that they're protesting, and they're visitors. They're
Wow.
vacationing in the city, so they're just taking part in the vandalism. They're not even taking part in the protesting. Like when they get arrested, they're not there. They don't live in Overtown or downtown or near Bayside or near Miami Gardens. They don't even live in the states.
Right.
They're just there participating in the vandalizing of mainly property.
My
Right.
And
thing is
yeah.
this, though. My thing is this, if I can jump in there,
Mhm.
Please.
is even if it is the protesters doing the looting, why are we more upset about looting than we are about the man who got killed on video?
Because
We
green
should
is the
not.
color
Who
of
cares
compromise.
about property?
Right.
Say again.
Because green is the color of compromise. They don't care about black.
No, right, of
Mhm.
course.
Mhm.
But that, I
Right.
mean, Martin Luther King said that riots are the language of the unheard, and
Right.
right now, as minorities in this country, we feel like we are unheard, because how long and how many years have we been saying that the police are brutalizing us, the police are using excessive force, the police are targeting us, um, and I think it was Dave Chappelle or somebody that had a joke in like a stand up thing that he did years ago about when white people first were discovering that black people were being beat up by the cops, because it was in the Reader's Digest or something like that. Um,
Hmm.
we've been saying for years and years and years that you're brutalizing us, you're treating us as less than human, and now you're proving it by being more upset about a storefront window than this man's life that was taken from us on video. So I mean, my thing is like, if people are gonna riot, they're gonna riot, and yeah, I'm not for destroying property and destroying businesses, and I get all that, but we've reached the boiling point, and the masses are going to do what the masses are going to do. It's up to us to try to hear the message that's being sent and to understand the message that's being sent. And the message with the looting is just like what when the Watts riots happened a long time ago, and then when the LA riots happened after Rodney King, and then when the Miami riots happened here. Those riots were happening not just because people want to go out and break stuff. It's boiling frustration. It's boiling emotions. A man can only take so much. People can only take so much before they have to stand up finally and say, "You can't hit me anymore. You can't choke me anymore." So, I'm not saying people should riot and all of that, but like my thing is, I'm not even tripping off the riots because I'm more upset about the fact that a man died on video than I am about the fact that some storefront windows were broken or some buildings were burned.
Can I piggyback off what you're saying?
I don't know if you guys saw the video of the female police officer, the Fort Lauderdale female police officer that got in the face of another officer because he attacked a protester.
Right.
And I'm pretty, at the time I didn't know which police department she worked for, or I didn't know her name. I finally found out her name today, and I went to her social media. If you go to her social media, when I say she has received so much praise, because when I watched the video, I couldn't actually hear what she was saying, but as a black girl, that sometimes is an angry black woman, I could imagine the words. I can hear the words coming out of my own mouth because I saw the finger, I saw the head. I was like, all I would say was get him, because that's also another thing we need another officer to bring to the forefront of what you're doing.
Right.
Like I can hear the words coming out of her mouth saying, "You're the reason why we're out here. That's why we out here now. That's why we're trying to defend this building. That's why that's why we're out here, because of people like you."
Right.
And I think I saw a couple of posts saying after Martin Luther King was assassinated, and they marched for, I think it was 6 days, and after the 6th day, that's when the Civil Rights Act was passed. And I'm guessing that's what they're hoping to lead to some type of law passed to make sure that there's some kind of um, accountability to that can be taken, because when there's no law or no policy, that an when you in I don't want to say he intentionally killed, but he kept his knee on his neck until he was no longer breathing. When something like that happens, there have to be some accountability to be taken. At this point, that's why there's a third degree charge, because they don't have anything else to charge him with. And
Yeah.
there has to be something, like, I don't know if it's training, I don't know if there has to be some type of a policy, or something has to be set in place to know that if I do this can be an outcome for me. Like, I may put him in jail, or I may kill him, but I may be standing right next to him,
Right.
for them
So
to understand that it could happen.
yes. So I want to. I know, Reg. I know you want to add something, but I do want to, because our time is really already out. But I got to walk away with this question being answered by you all tonight. Um, and I say yay and amen to everything that was said. I do believe that we need more people that look like us, that are connected to us, not just on the judge's bench or in police uniform, which we absolutely certainly do as well, but also at the journalist desk as well. To we need individuals that can write our story the way that it should be, and not just what sells or what just gets a lot of attention. And I said this before that one of my favorite African proverbs is that until the lion learns how to write, the hunter will always be the hero. And that is absolute fact. We've got to learn how to write our own story and share our own truth. But Tiffany, you mentioned something that's very, very, very important as far as in the effects or what's the goal of these protests. We're protesting, we're trying to we're demonstrating, but what exactly are we aiming for? Are we just showing people that we're upset and that we don't like it, or are we trying to hit a target? What exactly are we trying to achieve with that? And so with that in mind, my question would be, where should the church be in the middle of this? So historically, the majority of the movements that have had any success in Black history, in our Black community, has been led, or at the very least, um, participated by and involved with, supported by the church, the Black church. So now, even more so, the church needs to have a part, needs to have a role to play. And in your minds, what should be the church's role in this movement?
I honestly think that
Reg,
Only
hold on, Tiff, because I want to make sure that
okay.
Reg gets in because I cut him off earlier.
oh, you're
And
good.
so,
Go
uh,
ahead, Reggie.
Reg, go ahead, Reggie.
I honestly think, in a sense, and I'm just going to say it, that the church has lost its spot in social justice. Um, and I say that because if you look at, like you said, historically, the church has been always on the forefront. Martin Luther King, along with other several pastors and leaders, have led the movements. The movements were led by us in a sense, but in a sense, you always seen the preachers on the front row of the protests and stuff like that, and you no longer see that anymore. And I think back in the day, there was a respect for the church. When the church said anything, you it meant something. It carried weight. When people want to get elected, what do they come to? They come to the church. They want to say something to the church. They want to say something because the church held the weight that I think that the church is now starting to lose, because a lot of preachers are scared to speak vocally on issues like this, because a lot of churches now want to be what they call it, multicultural. A lot of churches want to be multicultural, which is understanding. I get that. So being multicultural, you don't want to offend your brother or sister of another persuasion on the other side of the congregation, on the other side of the pew, versus the majority of African Americans you may have, and so therefore you don't say anything at all, because we do a lot of sugarcoating. We sugarcoat a lot instead of us just saying things that need to be said. And in that place, I think we've lost a lot. I think the church has lost a lot of weight that it had with social justice and political issues such as this right here. And we don't speak out. I mean, count how many. And they got a thing on social media now. How, if your pastor don't say anything during this time here, you might want to move your membership. A lot of people have that, and a lot of people are genuinely doing that. And because you don't see a lot of pastors on the forefront saying anything about what's going on right now. They are quiet. They are quiet, like this issue doesn't affect them, and it hurts. It hurts people, and people move and people do things off of emotion a lot of times. So I think we've lost our weight a lot in the church when it comes to in these arenas. So that's just my take on it.
Now, I do want to say this though, Reg, that a lot more pastors are speaking out more than they're getting credit for.
True.
And so, it people are looking for the pastors to jump out and to organize, and to go out and protest. They're looking for that. But even with that, I believe that has gotten tricky now as well. Because actually, I had a relative to call me and say, "Hey, listen, you need to go out to the protest and make everybody, calm down and act orderly." I said, I can't tell all them hundreds of people to do that. they're not members of my church, and
And
so but I do believe that I agree that pastors should organize, or we should ramp up our organization and combating this. But I do want to not this, not just not for you, but people that's listening who may say, pastor's not saying anything, or if your pastor don't preach on this on Sunday, then he ain't real. Well, that is you got to be extremely careful
yeah,
about deciding whether the pastor is sanctified or not because he didn't preach or did preach on what happened yesterday. And so I just say that, but yeah, that I understand. I absolutely understand. And the church has to regain its weight in society, in the eyes of other communities in which we've served, which we have lost.
now let me say this. I don't blame a lot of y'all now, because at these protests they can go left real fast. And at the end of the day, a lot of people still got families to get back home to, and that's the first ministry. And I'm not going out there for me to be getting shot with rubber bullets or tear gassed up, and coronavirus, anti-Rona still out there too, and people act like they don't see that. So I totally get being a little on a withdrawal on this end, because it's a lot going on right there. It is a lot, and it can any moment. You don't know when. So yeah.
Yeah, and as a pastor, I would say, and I hope my wife is not listening to this, but as a pastor, I would say that for me personally, the consequences of protesting, I'm not afraid of. I would rather not be shot or attacked or whatever, or jailed, or whatever, because I have a wife, I have children that I want to come home to. However, if I'm fighting for something for my children, for my wife, for my grandchildren, that's something I'm willing to face the consequences for. However, what I will not face the consequences for is for a disorganized group that I don't know what in the world they're fighting for and what they're trying to do, and I know that they're not going to be organized and disciplined enough to get this done. I can't go to war with people like that, and where I just jump in. We've got to be disciplined. We got to be strategic, and we've got to know what we want and know how to get it, and not just go based off of emotion and what we feel. And so, Ellis, Tiffany, Brittany, what are your thoughts? Where should the church be in all this before we close out? What should the church be in all this?
I think since you said my name first, I'll go first. I think that the church should be exactly where it's always been in these types of movements, and that's front and center. I mean, especially with Black folk. I mean, the church has always been there. It's still the number one sort of gathering spot for Black people. It's still the number one community organization for many Black people. It's funny to think about for me, and not even really funny. It's actually, I think it's a good thing, and it actually makes me very proud that Black people adhere to God and Christianity and the church as much as we do. The fact that the church is still our number one gathering spot and organizing body is, I think, means a lot, and it signifies a lot for Black people and who Black people are. So moving forward, I do think that the movements are always going to have to involve the church. And I think that parishioners and folks who go to church and folks who call themselves Christian have a duty to stand up and fight injustice. I believe in, again, I'm not a biblical scholar, but I saw a Bible verse that someone posted on social media, and literally it says that we as Christians have a duty to stand up against injustice when we see it. Not that we
That
can
that
sit
was
there.
Photoshop. That wasn't.
Oh, that wasn't real. That's not a real Bible. Okay, so there you go. So sorry, Lord.
Be careful about where you get your sources from,
I don't
man.
want to put the word in the Lord's mouth. But yeah, so I mean, whatever. Even still, I mean, okay, so fine. Even if that's not a Bible verse, I mean, let's take our.
I'm joking, man.
Okay, whether it is or not, let's take the number one example that we have, and that's Christ. And Jesus Christ was flipping tables in the temple.
Yeah.
When he saw something wasn't right. And so, Jesus himself is not afraid to go damage some property. So, if the situation calls for it, we might have to shake a table. We might have to make some noise and break a window. So, and the church is right there, and the church should have a sense of
You're going too far, man. You're going
not break a window. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about a figurative window.
Come on, you the lawyer, man.
It's a parable. I'm speaking in parables, like our Lord and Savior.
That's great, man. And you're absolutely right. Jesus was very much so a social radical, and he doesn't get credit as much as he should for all of the all of the stuff that he's done, not just to make the Pharisees mad and the Sadducees mad, but to make Rome mad too. A friend of mine, Pastor Kenneth Duke, talked about how, the Lord's, or we call the Lord's Prayer, "Our Father who art in heaven," when he said, "Hallowed be thy name," that was politically dangerous to say, because only Caesar could have his name hallowed, and only Caesar could have his name that respected. And Jesus says, "No, I'm not talking about Caesar. Hallowed be God's name." And so that was politically dangerous and radical, and that was socially conscious. And so, you're right. Jesus is absolutely the model for that. Tiffany, Yolanda, Brittany, what are y'all thoughts? Where should the church be in all this? Where should the church be in all this? Tiffany, you on mute?
I
There you
guess
go.
I'll go first because you said my name first. Um, well, to piggyback off Ellis, he's right with the church should be at the forefront. And another thing that Reggie said that when he said that the church used to have like a certain weight when it came to politics, because of course when anybody, and I think some people still do it, when they run for office, they come to the church and tell us what they're all about in their community, in the community that they're running for, and to make sure we know who they are. But yeah, I think the church should be to the front when uh Dr. King marched. He was always at the front of the line, leading the people, and protesting with the people. I don't know if you want to be out there in the front line with these people right here, but you might want to be like get on your YouTube channel
Yeah,
and
I'm telling you,
get some game.
you
But
gotta be careful.
but yeah, I think the church is, or I think they should have like some type of meeting with the um the politicians that are of their community, so they can pass on their constituents concerns, or advise them of the concerns that they have of the community, because if you can get to the commissioners in your area, they can pass it on to whoever, to the next person ahead of them, so that they know what's going on in their district. That's another way, aside from protesting. But yeah, I think that's all I got. But I did
Yeah.
hear that I could flip some tables. Thanks, Ellis.
Don't you listen to Ellis. Ellis was talking about parables. He said that. He said it was parables. All right. All right. Yolanda, Brittany.
Can you all hear me?
We hear you, Londa.
Okay. So I was away for a while. I had some really bad internet issues. I don't know what everyone said, but I did hear Tiffany, and I agree that the church should be in the forefront. I know for me, I know in my spirit and my soul, I am not a protester, but I would love to be active, and I would love to be active with my church. And I know I may not be the only person like that. So it will be a blessing to have our churches come together, be in the forefront, organize something for us that we can all be active in a way that works with our soul, works with our heart. Because everyone is not a type of person to go out and protest and hold signs, or don't like big crowds. And that's me. I'm more reserved, but I'm active. I love to help. Any way possible that I can, I would love to do something with my church where we can just come together as one and have a leader that can get the word out in a positive manner, in a positive message. I don't know how, but I would love to be involved any way possible.
Great. Fantastic. Brittany, what are your thoughts?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I think I agree with what Tiffany said. I think that the church should definitely be in the forefront. I agree that the biggest weapon that we have, I think, outside of protesting and marching and everything, is actually speaking, letting our vote speak for us. And even down to local elections, I don't think people realize how important local elections are. I know a lot of folks that do not vote in local elections. I think that the church has a duty to educate, the members regarding different things going on in the community. So I think that is honestly in our community one of the most centralized meeting places. So if anything, with everything that is going on, I think that the church, a huge impact that the church can make is just education. Civic education, just from how policies are implemented, how officials are elected, how the laws work, because most people don't know or need a refresher.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So as we close out on this, God's been kind of dealing with me as far as in what should be Macedonia's response, and I'm excited because he's beginning to kind of speak to me and kind of show me how can we respond, because the truth is that, as you all mentioned, everybody is not a sign and picket protester, and some are and some are not, and so it's my goal as pastor of finding a way for all of us to be able to participate and not just displaying our displeasure with what happened, not just with George Floyd, but what's happened to our people, across our communities, even inside of Miami-Dade County. And we'll be able to do that. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is that I need, and please hear me, everybody, I need everybody to register to vote, educate yourself about the voting, and then go and vote. I need everybody to do that. And I don't want to hear any responses or any excuses of, they're not going to count the vote. They're not going to do this. Well, dog it. If they're not going to count it, then I would rather vote and not be counted than to not vote and make certain that they don't count it. And so it's our responsibility to vote. It starts that way. And then what I'm going to be doing on my end, along with other pastors, is ensuring that every vote gets counted. That's what we're going to be doing on our end, ensuring that every vote gets counted, not just those in the polls. I'm talking about mail-in votes too, and absentee ballots. We want to make sure that we're going to hold them accountable. And if something happens, something funny goes up, Macedonia, everybody who does not protest, I need y'all to protest that day, because we're going to be fighting, because that's our civil rights that they owe us, and they're gonna give it to us. So that's the first thing. Make sure you register, educate, and vote. And then the second thing is that I need everybody to be counted in the census. So if you have not yet done the census, it's like less than 5 minutes. It's like less than 10 questions, and it's not even an essay. It's like multiple choice. It's very easy. You need to register census.gov. Get it done today. I need everybody to get it done today. Make sure that your family is counted for, your children is counted for, you're counted for, so that they know, hey, listen, we got people here, and we got people that got to make some noise. And if they don't know who we are, they don't see our numbers, then they won't know our strength. They need to know how strong we are as a community. And there's going to be some other things that God is kind of speaking with us on, that we're going to be pushing out. So I need you all to be able to be ready for that. Listen, everybody, thank you all so much. We went longer than our usual Bible study, but it was time well spent, because we needed to talk this out. And I'm praying that many of us are feeling better emotionally, but yet still even more so, you're ready mentally and in every other way to go out and let's do something about it. And so I didn't want this session to be just something to make us feel good, but I want to use our frustration as motivation for innovation to go out and make some real changes inside of our country and community. All right. And so we're looking forward to doing that. As we close out, I'm gonna end it just as we began it. This video that when I saw it, it literally made me cry. I don't cry over a lot of stuff. I'm not that sensitive like that. But this video and this song really made me tear up as I saw the pains that our community has been going through, not just back in the 60s or the 50s or the 70s, but 2020 and 2019, 2018, in the past 5 years, we've really gone through some traumatic stuff, and the whole United States of America owes every Black person counseling sessions, because we've really gone through it. All right, but I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Tiffany Jackson, Ellis Keeter, Yolanda Young, Reggie Woods, Brittany Phillips. Thank y'all so much for being on. Y'all are the bomb. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
I'm a young Black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hunted and prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've got enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. God protect to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hurt to this grave. My people don't want no trouble. We've got enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. God protect me. I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around,
It's a shame
I
that
see what's being done.
our fathers and mothers are killed and we can receive them
Every day.
11 times he repeated, "I can't breathe." But the disconcerted officers, they paid no attention to his cries. Man was trying to only breathe